Welcome to Acoustic Guitar, episode 11, Chordal Picking Technique. Now, this is a great technique, for a lot of guitar players, though, performing strumming and some finger picking might be fairly common in respect to their knowledge of acoustic guitar technique. However, one of the most often overlooked techniques for acoustic guitar is known of as chordal picking. And this is a technique that we're going to hear in a lot of different songs. And I just want to demonstrate it for you real quick. I'll take a G chord and just outline it using some chordal picking. A minor, G again, C major. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm making some chord changes. I'm outlining the chords with a nice rhythmic pattern, but the pick is sort of jumping all over the place doing some unique patternings. Now, this is a technique that you're going to hear, like I said, in a lot of different songs. You'll hear it in gospel numbers. You'll hear it in bluegrass tunes. It's also in that classic rock song by Wasson called More Than a Feeling. It makes up the intro of that tune. And, the technique is just really using a flat pick to pick across strings and outline chords using some nice, unique patterns. Now, it's not exactly like doing, arpeggiated approach, which is where you're more drop picking. I'm going to take a C chord here and just show you that approach. It's called arpeggiated idea. You can tell what I'm doing is just dropping the pick across the strings and tracking through the chord. Little arpeggiated concept there with the chord. So it's, not that really, because it's got different kinds of patterns, but it works around the same principle. We're using the flat pick and we're going to be doing some jumping. Sometimes people call this cross picking, or sometimes they refer to it as string crossing, but in this lesson, I'm going to give you the basic ideas. We're just going to compartmentalize everything to around 4 strings of the guitar for a span and try and keep this pretty basic just to get you started with the technique. And I guarantee you, once you get used to this and you start using it, you'll probably use it a lot because it's a great way to highlight notes when you've got a flat pick and just play through the chords a little bit differently than just doing strumming all the time. So what we're going to do is get started in part 1 of the video by going through some basics, get you rolling along with the technique anyway. And then later when we kick into part 2, I'm going to have a few more examples that are kind of more advanced to move through as well. And I guarantee you though, once you start using this, you're going to start putting it into a lot of ideas in your own playing and you'll really enjoy it. So let's not waste any more time. We'll zoom in on the guitar and start going through some of these basic examples I have for you here in part 1. Well, in example 1, I have this nice G major, but it's coming across kind of more like a D Mixolydian type of riff here, focusing on the D chord of the key of G major. And you might think it sounds a little bit like some songs like maybe "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses, or there's that riff in the beginning of Boston's "More Than a Feeling," where it's got some of this chordal picking concept going on. But it just these parts and these ideas come across just beautifully on acoustic guitar. So it's really good to learn how to do this. It's all with a flat pick, so we are not using fingerstyle or hybrid picking or any of that. It's all done exclusively with our flat pick there. And what I want to do in example 1 here is just break this thing down, show you how it's all set up on the guitar, and give you a chance to learn it properly. Now, if you are a member of the website, you do have access to the handout. I would highly suggest following along because I am going to talk about not just the way the notes are laid out, and the tab is shown for that, but I'm also going to be talking about the rhythm structure, and that's going to be notated in the music notational parts. So let's run through this. We're going to start off by going through a D major chord using a lot of 8th notes. We're going to go D on the 4th string open, and then the A and the D on 3rd string to 2nd string, and then double back to the A on the 2nd fret of 3rd string. Then we're going to jump over up to the high F sharp on the 1st string, 2nd fret, come around into a D on the 3rd fret of 2nd string, and then over to an A, wrapping things up on the 3rd string, 2nd fret there. And that's where we enter into a quarter note in the rhythms section here. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and on the 4th beat there's your quarter note. Then after that, we're going to move into a C chord, but it's not really just a true blues C chord. It's going to be a C chord that's going to include a high D there. So it's kind of like a C add 2. And the reason why I say add 2 instead of suspended second is because we are going to bring in an E. So we're going to have the major third there eventually, but it's not going to come in until around the midpoint of the measure. But this is how it's going to get set up. We're going to start on our low C 5th string 3rd fret, jump over across to a D at 3rd fret of the 2nd string, then get an open 3rd and open 4th in there, and then walk into this E, the major 3rd, and then have our open G coming up at the end there. And that's going to be a tie off of the upbeat of 3 into the downbeat of 4. So a little bit different rhythmically. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Just like that. A little more sustain onto the 4th beat, which is going to be the open 3rd string G. And then what we're going to do is in the 3rd measure, we're going to head to a G chord. It's going to be a G chord that's going to include a D tone on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. We're going to start by going from the low G root on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, D. So it's a wide jump that we're doing. 6th string all the way to the 2nd string. It's a pretty big jump there. So we're going to head after that to the G open 3rd, and then we're going to walk up on the 5th string going open A, the B tone, 2nd fret B, and then we're going to have open D, open G after that. So once again, the rhythm is going to be more so like the first measure, so it's going to be all 8th notes except for a quarter note at the end, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, just like that. And then we're going to wrap things up back again into the D chord, but we're going to do something special with it. We're going to add in a suspended 4th. We're going to bring in a G on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You probably noticed how it's sustaining there too, so the rhythm is slightly different there as well. We're going to sustain off the upbeat of 2 into the downbeat of 3, and that's going to be a little bit different. We're going to do that with a tie, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All right, so the whole thing comes together. Like that. Really nice chordal picking study, very straightforward, using a lot of the basic open position chords. Get that down, try and move it maybe into some of your own favorite chords in open position, and start experimenting maybe even too with changing things up a little bit to suit your needs as to how you like the sound of things as well. Now we're going to take a short break here, come back in a moment with example 2, where we're going to start looking at some bar chord concepts along the neck. We're going to have some fun with some of the movable chord shapes and just break out some a little bit different approach with bar chord technique and doing the chordal picking concepts. So we'll take a short break and come back in a moment in example 2 with that stuff for you. Hey everyone, Andrew Wasson. Just wanted to make a quick announcement about CreativeGuitarStudio.com. If you haven't grabbed a free membership yet, just head to the website, click on Create Account, fill this form out, and you got a free lifetime account to the website. Once that's in place, you can just jump into the members area here where we got all the lesson plans. And my quick announcement I wanted to make is I'm really excited because we've got the latest installment in the Advanced Guitar program posted to the site. Now, in the Advanced Guitar program is packed full of information. Each of these project lessons is around 2.5 hours of instruction. There's probably around 160 to 180 hours of instruction just in these lesson plans alone. The latest installment covers minor pentatonic, and there's 24 videos. This lesson plan is 2 hours and 45 minutes long when you run through all the lessons. If you've got a full premium membership, you can download the course files and an MP3 jam track. It's really quite the program. So if you're looking for a really serious guitar course online, right from beginner, I've got the introductory program here, or intermediate, if you feel like you're more of an intermediate player and you want to work through, lesson plans that are really geared to understanding the guitar fingerboard much better. So if that's kind of your level, I've got those set up. But, a lot of people really enjoy the advanced material. It's all the major scales, major 7 arpeggios and chords and minors and pentatonics and lots of improvisation exercises throughout here. So if you really want to jump into some great step-by-step material that is really organized, and in no way is it some kind of random guitar course. Like, I know I've heard so many complaints over the years about all the random lessons, and then probably for a lot of you, you're sick of the random lessons on YouTube that don't follow any kind of order and sequence. Well, grab your free membership, start with that. But when you're ready to advance to sort of the next level there, you can grab one of my membership plans. basic monthly membership's $19.95 a month, and then if you want to upgrade to the premium package, you do save $60. It's a one-time payment of $179.40, but that does give you full access to everything on the site. If you want a great step-by-step, well-organized guitar course, just head over to creativeguitarstudio.com and set up your membership today. Well, in example 2, we have a bar chord approach now going on, so it's a little bit different to employ chordal pattern picking across these bar chords, but it's a unique element that we have when we're approaching bar chord concepts on the neck. And the nice thing about this is as we move along the span of the neck, we can take our picking patterns and move them across chord changes, even in through other positions, and come up with some really cool concepts that really flow nicely along the neck. And I'm doing a little bit of that in example 2 here, but I'm also breaking things up a lot. So let's start going through the chord changes. We're pretty much set up off of the color of B minor, key center B minor. So we've got a B minor bar chord that's happening. If you're following the curriculum at Creative Guitar, this is a pattern number 4 bar chord. And what I'm doing is I'm taking some of the low notes first off of the 6th and 5th strings of it. B minor bar chord, pattern number 4. And you can see I'm going into the 3rd and 4th strings next with that shape. And then I'm going up to the 2nd string. And then I'm going back into 3rd. So 2nd to 4th and then back to 3rd. Okay. So I've got an outline of that B minor chord there, and then I'm moving down the neck into A major. And in this case, what I'm doing is I'm starting on the high part of the chord. I'm coming from the 2nd string, going 2nd, 3rd, and then 4th, and then into the low A tone down at the 5th fret of the 6th string. Then after that, I'm going to be going into the 6th and 5th frets of 3rd and 2nd strings, sort of pedaling off of those notes. And it's just kind of like double back on that. Then after that, we're going to move into the D chord, and we're going to focus on the interior notes there. So just kind of going across, root 5th octave, back to the 5th, so 5, 7, 7, back to the 7th fret A. And then we're going to go to the top of the chord and get this high 7th fret 2nd string. And just kind of pedal through it like that. Coming back around, ending on the 3rd string there. So it's just a standard pattern number 2 bar chord of D major. Those other ones were the pattern number 4 B minor, pattern number 4 A major. And then what we're going to do next is do something a little bit different. This is just a movable shape for a G, pattern number 1 G from my curriculum. And that one's being outlined a little bit different. It's going to be maybe a little challenging even for you, because we have the 5th string jumping right over across to the 2nd string, and then into the interior with 4th into 3rd string. So kind of like going from the outside to the inside of that G chord, a little bit more challenging. But because we're kind of all over the place, and these patterns are changing quite a bit as we go measure by measure, it's really important to understand exactly how everything's set up. The 1st and 3rd measures have the same rhythm. If you have the handout, you can see that. And then when we move into the 2nd measure and then into the 4th measure, it's a little bit different rhythmically. So, make sure you count everything out. The straight 8th notes for measure 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we move into the A chord, where we're going to start from that high 2nd string, remember. This one's going to have a tie going on from the upbeat of 2 to the downbeat of 3, so a little bit different rhythmically. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we move into the D chord, and we're going to be outlining that from the bass, 1 and 2 and then from the high 2nd string, and then we have 3 and 4 and. So it's kind of like, working in 3-string clusters there on the D chord for measure 3. So operate with that one properly. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge because the picking is going to get really tight in there. But when we move into the last measure, we have this G major coming up, and the G major is going from the 5th string over across to the 2nd string, and then we're going to the interior. We have 4th into 3rd string. It's like that. So it's kind of outside, inside on that G chord. So try and build everything up to the goal tempo. I do have a goal tempo on this one of 90 beats per minute. If If you need help just working your chords out in the beginning, spend some time setting up the chord voicings and get your hands really familiar with how all those chords are operating on the neck, and then you can start working on the pattern picking that we have for the chordal picking approach. Just go slow through it all at first, Allow your hands to understand how everything is working. Remember to breathe properly. Don't get hung up on holding your breath. Too many guitar players will hold their breath and it really kind of bogs you down. So remember this stuff, it's really a nice picking pattern. You could do this across any kind of bar chord setup. Even, you can set things that they're moving more laterally down the neck, come up with some very cool ideas, maybe even some very consistent picking ideas. But, it's all a lot of fun to work on. I think you're going to be able to apply this stuff very quickly. It's not going to take you too long. Some of the picking technique with the picking hand itself, it's going to take a little bit of extra effort to match everything with your pick to the appropriate string as you go. But anyway, that brings us to the end here of the chordal picking technique part 1 for lesson 11 of acoustic guitar. And what we're going to do is take a short break and come back shortly with the ideas that are coming up in part 2. So when we move into part 2, we're going to be looking at some nice ideas with advanced groove and articulation, and that's going to be in example 3. And then in example 4, I have a really nice sort of speedier picking approach that's going to use some licks and stuff too. So it's going to be kind of interesting, and we're going to be looking at some more advanced chords with that as well, because we're going to take a look at outlining some sounds of the major 7s. We'll have some nice major 7 ideas. We'll also have some nice minor 7 concepts in there too. So it should be a really interesting second half of the lesson plan. You will need to be a member of the website to be able to access that. So if you haven't picked up membership yet to creativeguitarstudio.com, definitely do so. There is loads of information on the site, and if you really think about it, the main element of the website is the courses. So if you want a really good step-by-step guitar program that just goes and shows you everything about how to play, ideas on music reading, rhythm guitar, chord structures, you name it, improvisation, there's a very thorough introductory and intermediate advanced program there you can follow, and I guarantee it's going to make some huge differences in your playing, along with all these electives like acoustic guitar. I got the guitar soloing stuff, there's all the master classes, there's, like I say, just loads of stuff on the site. So go check it out if you haven't got a membership, creativeguitarstudio.com. I guarantee you're going to love it. If you want to learn the modes and get a really good understanding for how they can be used musically to write songs, play a solo, or compose melody lines, then you're in luck. My ebook, Using the Major Scale Modes, is a comprehensive manuscript outlining exactly how modes are used in respect to harmony and to compose or improvise melodic ideas. Over 50 pages of scale patterns, example progressions, and music theory all come together to create a comprehensive method on how to use the modes that's easy to understand. Using the Major Scale Modes is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com. Thanks for watching part 1 of the lesson. Be sure to sign up for a membership at creativeguitarstudio.com to watch part 2. In part 2, we'll practice chordal picking with advanced groove and articulation, as well as with increased speed. Plus, as a member, you'll also be able to download the handout for this lesson, along with many more professional guitar lessons. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch up next in the members area.